Okay.
A little wine for anybody.
You ready to go? Everybody ready to go? Everybody ready?
We have the agenda.
Okay. Good evening. Calling to order this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. The date is January 17th, 2019 at 7:33 p.m. So, can we have a roll call, please?
Director Slater-Carter.
Present.
Director Lohman.
For the first time.
Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Harvey.
Here.
Director Marsh.
Here. Okay, so President's statement, I'm going to tell you that, well, first I'm going to take a minute to welcome the new members and the returning member, the transferee from Granada. And I want to take a minute, having done this for a while, to just tell all of you just how really great it is that we have people who are willing to step up and come to meetings and do the work, read all the homework, engage in discussion and debate, try to solve problems together, and generally in a spirit of goodwill and community spirit, do things that are benefit to the community. And people often tell me, it must be a thankless job, but it's not. I mean, there's the camaraderie that we get from building a team and solving problems together, but also members of the community, especially our community, have always been quite vocal about their appreciation for the work that this board does. And tonight it's going to be my pleasure to swear in 3 members of this board. I'll administer the oath, and I just want to start out by expressing my very deeply held conviction that the family members and loved ones of the people who are doing this work are making a great contribution in supporting their family and friends in contributing to this. And this goes on. Rick knows this from experience. Jim knows this from experience. You'll learn. One meeting is fun. The second meeting, it starts to get a little more real, and then by about the 30th meeting, it really is a job. And the help and support of family and friends is so important. And if you are one of those family and friends, I'd like to thank you for the support that you've given the people who are currently have been on the board, and to the ones whose family and friends are now joining the board. I want to thank you in advance for your patience and forbearance and support, because it really does take a group to make this thing happen. And at a time when our nation is in such turmoil and strife, this small group of people who come together and solve problems together, even though we all bring our different points of view, our different experiences, time after time after time, year over year, the people of this community who've come together to work on solving these problems have proven that all politics are local, and that when people of goodwill get together, you actually solve big problems. Some problems that are like way bigger than a handful of people in a small room like this ought to be able to do. And it's just a delight. So with that, I'm going to move new business item number 2. After
because that was well spoken.
well, it's my treat. I'm looking forward to doing this. I'm going to move new business 2 to after oral comments. So at this point, we'll take any oral comments from members of the audience on items that are not on the agenda. Seeing none in the audience, I see Catherine in comments.
Well, I would like to make a note that we have 2 former board members in our audience, Lou Wall and Bob Tasek, who are here to keep an eye on us, which I think it shows the involvement and the dedication of members of this community to their only solely elected board for Montara and Moss Beach. And one member of the MCC, and I beg your forgiveness, I'm sort of jet-lagged right now.
Barbara Matthews.
I wanted to call you something like somebody else. So
I got my name wrong the last meeting too.
Barbara Mathewson, who is currently on the Mid-Coast Community Council, and again, her dedication to serving our community is very important. And so it's an honor and a pleasure to have Barbara and Lou and Bob here. And thank you very much.
And can I add that Bob Patasek played a major, heavy role in the purchasing of the district, and was here for early morning meetings, that is late night, early morning meetings, many of those. And I feel a big debt for Bob's role.
Just the water part, not the poop part.
And Lou Walls, our esteemed historian, and was involved in the beginning of this board, and Sam, and makes all the meetings for Sam and this board, and that makes a continuing big contribution. Excuse me, Catherine.
No.
Scott?
All right, Rick.
I just wanted to thank Clemens and the whole staff for the warm welcome and the thorough tours and everything we got as brand new members here. And I'd just like to say that my supportive wife said she was happy to see me leave tonight so she could watch her TV show.
She strongly supports you coming as often
Leaving
as possible.
I know the feeling.
She's not going to watch the tape anyway.
Clemens.
Okay, well, thanks, Scott. It fits that we have two former board members here because I want to thank our former district clerk, Judy Grum, who retired over about a year and a half ago. She is still delivering cookies to us. And since we didn't have a late December meeting, she dropped off a whole batch for everyone that's out there right now. So just letting you know that please don't miss the opportunity to get some of Judy's homemade cookies.
Best ever. Best
Always.
Cookies ever.
Yeah,
Always
that's
a treat.
ever. Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
All right, well, with that, let's move to new business 2, which is review and possible action concerning the, well, tell you what, we really need to do new business 1 first, and then we can go to new business 2.
I think for new business 1, we need actually already the board members to be able to make the decision. The recommendation from the attorney was go with new business 2 first.
We're going to get them both done anyway, so let's do number 2 then. Review and possible action concerning the administration of the oath of office to the newly elected board members. For this, I will ask each of you in turn to stand, and I will administer the oath. I'll read it to you a few words at a time. I'll give you the opportunity to... I'm assuming you ask. Let's start with you, and let me show the audience. We have from Mark Church, the Chief Elections Officer and Assessor County Clerk Recorder, these beautiful certification of election certificates for each newly elected member. This one's for Eric Marshall. So let's start with you, Eric. Yeah, come around to you. Do this in a way perfect for recording with posterity, and so just look at the camera so your family can enjoy this and replay this at family events. So if this is the oath of office, if you'll repeat after me. I, fill in your name.
I, Eric Marshall,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will
well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I am about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if you could just sign right here.
And everything.
Yes.
This is a fun event. This is actually one of the most momentous things that we do. And I really appreciate that we take a moment to do this and celebrate our community actually pulling off a revolution every few years with smiles and handshakes. This is great. So this is to certify that Rick Lohman was elected to the office of Member Board of Directors, Montara Water and Sanitary District. Let me set that there for you. If you would repeat after me. I, fill in the blank.
I, Rick Lohman,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the constitutions of the state of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United
to
States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation.
without any mental reservation.
That's the moment of commitment right there.
Or think about it again.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion,
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. All right, Jim Harvey. Bear witness here. All right, Jim. I, fill in the blank,
I, Jim Harvey,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United
to
States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sign on the dotted line.
All right.
I got it all.
And now we will move on into the public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing for item 1, review and possible action concerning establishment of Prop 218 limits for solid waste disposal fee increase January 1st, 2019.
All right, thank you, Scott. So this is now the third time that we bring this item to the board. Our franchise agreement with the College of the Coast requires that we annually assess the solid waste disposal rates and adjust them January 1 each calendar year. And we've received those calculations, I believe it's around October. And then we go through a formal process of evaluating the numbers. We do this through our accounting firm, Mays and Associates, who are confirming or looking into the numbers and checking their accuracy. And the way the contract is structured is that it's usually it's a 2-year cost. It's the cost assessment is index-based, and then there is a year that catches up, and then where it's cost-based. This year is a cost-based year assessment, and the formula that we're applying according to the contract would normally result in a 12.14% rate increase over the prior years, over the 2018 rates. There is, however, a cap in the contract that doesn't allow the rate increase to go over 6% at this time. The reason for the rate increase is labor costs, salaries, benefits, and pension increase. Fuel costs increased quite significantly. And also, it's the decrease in income from recycling, or actually this time around, I think we can safely say that it's not a decrease in income. It's actually now turning into a cost for Recology to recycle. Part of the formal process also requires that we go out for a Prop 218 hearing. That's what we're doing right now here. So notices were mailed to all property owners in Montara and Moss Beach, notifying them about the planned rate increase January 1. The way the process looks like is that if more than the majority of property owners objects to the rate increase, we have to go back to the drawing board and start negotiating again. Currently, we have 2 protest letters at this time. So the recommendation is to open the public hearing, allow relevant testimony, close the public hearing, then count all allowable Prop 218 protests received, determine whether or not the proposed rate limit should be approved in accordance with Prop 218, and then thereafter, if that is the case, adopt the ordinance of the Montara Water and Sanitary District establishing maximum rates for the collection, removal, and disposal of refuse and for recycling services effective January 1, 2019.
All right, thank you. With that, the public hearing is open. Is there any testimony?
I forgot to say we have Chris Porter from Recology here to answer questions, make comments, and she's usually here at these events and helps us answer questions.
Seeing no requests, we have one.
Would you please fill out a speaker slip?
One member of the public, recognizing former Director Patasic.
I prefer to face the wall. Thank you. Bob Patasic, Montara. I'm in support of the increase. I've dealt with Recology and its previous folks in a number of contracts when I was on the board, and I have always found that Recology delivered quality service for a valid expense, and they have been delivering service to this community, not just to make a profit for themselves, which is reasonable for any corporation, but they have done extra work for the big pickups a couple of times a year. They have sponsored things that we have needed funds for. So they're a good steward of what they do. They are very good at controlling expenses, and this contract that they're asking for is very valid, and I wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public testimony? Hearing none, I close the public hearing. Now ask staff to count the number of protests.
It's not more than 2 at this time.
So that is 2. And the determination, sounds like we can determine that the rate limit should be approved if we have a motion to that effect.
I'd like to make a comment. I'll make the motion, but I have a comment.
Second.
Thank you. I would like, there are a lot of retirees and people on limited incomes in this community, and pennies count. So I would like us to perhaps on our website, and we've just done a newsletter, but perhaps in their billing or something, tell people what they can, that there is a 20-yard or a 20-gallon weight of 40 pounds single container available, and that people can downsize if they are working on keeping their garbage rates down. Because it's while think it's important to try and encourage recycling. One of the problems is recycling is now a cost rather than a cost, a rate. It doesn't decrease our rates like it used to when we initially drafted or signed this contract. So I think we need to help people understand that there are ways that they can reduce, and it's not just, it is simply by reducing your volume and thoughtfully so. Maybe you don't need to buy stuff in big containers. Maybe you can choose to buy things that are not as heavily packaged. And certainly dumping your trash in our creeks is not one of the solutions, as some have done. Thank you, Recology, for picking it up. But I would like us to be seen doing what we do, and that is helping people reduce their charges.
Okay, thank you. Let's have a roll call vote for moments.
Okay. Director Slater-Carter,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Aye.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Marshall.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 2, review and possible action concerning adoption of a revised master fee schedule to amend solid waste disposal fees.
Thanks, Scott. This is now an item that would manifest the rates in the district master fee schedule. So first we established the Prop 218 limit. Now we're setting the actual solid waste disposal fees and plugging them into our master fee schedule. By adopting the ordinance of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, restating and amending the master fee schedule. So the recommendation is to open the public hearing, consider relevant public testimony, close the public hearing, and then adopt the ordinance.
Okay, the public hearing is open. Do we have any public testimony?
Hi, my name is Chris Porter, and I am the General Manager of Recology of the Coast for the last 34 years. So I've seen a lot of things happen. I came from the time when you threw everything away. Now you don't throw anything away. I would like to address Catherine's point. There also is, for low-income people, there's a rate that if you are on the PG&E care program, if you can provide a statement to us, your statement, you'll receive a 15% discount on the 20-gallon cart. So that is something that you can contact the office and we'll be happy to help you. As far as the recycling, Recology as a corporation has made the corporate decision to not landfill any recyclable materials. And I know that that is really important on the coast side. When the general managers meet in San Francisco, I was one of the first ones to say that that cannot be allowed on the coast side, that we would not go for that. So that was made a corporate decision, and it is costing us money, yes. But I know that the citizens on the coast appreciate that. There are other places along the coast that are landfilling recycling materials. And if we stop taking these materials, what would happen? Recology of the Coast, within the corporate structure of Recology, has the most customers using a 20-gallon cart of all the Recologies. So there's a reason for that. It's because we care about the environment on the coast side. If we stop taking some of the materials there are now difficulties in being recycled, people in a 20-gallon cart would have to go to a 32-gallon cart. That's like a $15 difference. So that isn't acceptable either. So as Catherine was saying, we are asking you, be much more prudent when you go to the store shopping. You know, ask them, if you buy something from the bakery, ask them to take the big bulky container and keep it and just put it in a bag for you. Or bring your own bag, or I've seen people bring their own Ziploc bags, their own Tupperware, whatever, and just take the stuff out and have the people put the sticker right on the container. So there's a lot of different things that we can do when you go. A small thing is when you get takeout. Don't ask for all the additional, forks, knives, and all those other different things that have to go someplace. Be your own personal steward. We are continually putting things in the newspapers, the Half Moon Bay Review, the Pacifica Tribune, different ideas of how to simplify your everyday life to cut down on waste. And, we'll continue to do that. So we are very prudent about our expenses. We go all out to collect on delinquent customers so that it doesn't go to a lien on the property. When that happens, it's 18 months before we get paid. So what we're trying to do is collect the customers as we go along, because that all does affect everyone's payment. So we are trying a lot of different things. We've started a lot of different programs at the quarterly cleanup. We're taking a lot more things than we were taking before, and I checked with my staff before I came here tonight, and they asked me to compliment the Montara and Moss Beach customers because there is never any problem at the events. Everything is very orderly. So thank you very much. And we're available, five days a week. Seems like I live there. So somebody's always there. So give us a call.
Thank you, Chris. I think Jim has a question.
Chris, what happens to the items that we put in recycling that you can't process, that you have nowhere to put them, or you can't recycle them yourself?
We're processing everything right now. This is what's happening right now. I had a contract that expired September 30th, 2018, that I was getting paid $30 a ton for the recycling. Right now, I have to pay $20 a ton for the recycling, our secondary market, to take the materials. Okay, so that material is not being landfilled. It's costing them more to find markets to accept the material, but it is not being landfilled. So that's a $50 swing right there. But again, we have made the decision not to landfill.
That's very commendable, Chris. So going down the line, when these buyers purchase it, does it not end up being landfilled?
It does not end up in the landfill. It ends up being
in true recycled.
Yes.
Okay.
And Recology has also reached out all over the world within the last, I'd say, 9 to 12 months. And we have found new markets. But again, that's going to take time for those markets to, the whole relationship to develop. So we have signed a 2-year contract with our old supplier, or our old secondary market that's called Green Waste Recovery, and they're in San Jose. Okay, so we've signed a 2-year contract to kind of get us over the hurdle to not landfill, so to hoping that markets will open up, and there's a lot of disclaimers in this contract so that if things do change, the price will change of what we're paying. And, I'm hopeful that we could break even. And I have to say that in the negotiations, the cleanliness of the material from the coast side really helped. It helped, what I was fighting for at the table. And, my men are also very, very focused on when they do pick up the recycling. If there's material in there that does not belong in there, they'll tag the cart. So, you'll get calls, why did you pick up my recycling? Well, because, you had your old tennis shoes and your old clothes and everything else in there, or garbage that you couldn't fit in your can, you had to try to put in the bottom of the recycling bin or things like that. So, we'll tag it. But all that hard work on our part and on the part of the majority of the citizens helped to keep the price that the coastside residents paid low.
So it is worth the effort to clean out the empty peanut butter.
Yes.
Butter jar. And,
right now, that is more important than it was. It's much more important than it was 6 months ago. And there used to be a 5% contamination. So people, sometimes if they put plastic bags, they put the recycling in a plastic bag and put it in the bin. We took it because it would break out within the 5%. Well, now we just can't do it because the contamination level is less than 1%. Oof. So we cannot accept any plastic bags. So around October, November, we were tagging like crazy. We weren't picking up, and people, well, why didn't you tell us? Well, in every piece of material we've sent out, it always has said no plastic bags. Well, now we definitely have to enforce it. So that's where we're at right now, and we are working hard with the community, and we've gotten, feedback back and forth, and, we're part of the community too. 82% of my people live on the coast, so.
Thank you, Chris. That's some very helpful things. Let me throw in a comment here.
Oh yeah, everyone just got this in the mail, probably within the last week or so. If you didn't, Clemens has a lot of extra ones.
Here, give me one. I'll show it to the camera. Okay. Look for this in the mail, folks. And Catherine, you got a comment, and then we'll
I
wrap
do.
up on that.
I have a suggestion, and that is an issue I've been following actually through recycled water, is microfiber. Microfiber clothing, microfiber blankets, microfiber, oh God, everything has microfiber now. And when I talked to you about it a while back, you had said there is no way we can recycle microfiber. And perhaps when Recology is talking to its research folks, there could be a way to find a way to recycle microfiber. I know some of the environmental organizations are starting to work on banning microfiber. It is a man-made product that is incredibly invasive. There's been research done, and they've actually found it in the flesh of fish that has been caught in the ocean offshore here. It just gets everywhere. So if we could find a way to recycle it instead of just putting it in the waste stream or continuing to use it forever, that might be, I think that could be a good thing. And if we just start asking the question, we'll get the answer a lot sooner. So I appreciate that.
I could definitely do that, and I just thought, and I also asked the board and Scott, or whenever the new president comes, now that we have a new governor, it's behooving upon us to say to the Department of Conservation, what are you doing to help us? which isn't much. They will come down and want to audit what we're doing and what we're picking up and everything, but what are you doing to help open up markets and things? And they, you know, we continually are getting phone calls at the office. Why are you still taking the money at the supermarket when there's no place to cash the bottles in anymore? They're all closed. Well, the money the CRV money, that money, a lot of it goes to fund the state programs. Well, the state needs to do something to help us now. And if
So
they...
that would be Governor Gavin Newsom.
Right, exactly. And
He's got an office with a phone. Maybe it's worth a phone call.
well,
He answers it.
that, and if the president of this board asked that question, I think it means a lot more than if I asked that question. So I'm asking for help.
That's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate one of those items. So you may have been thinking when we were talking about the senior rate or the PG&E care program rate, it may not apply to you. Okay, good. If it does apply to you, please use it. If you know any neighbors that it might apply to, are they watching this board meeting? Maybe. We have a surprising number of people who do, but take the opportunity, reach out to your neighbors, and if you help your neighbors save 15% on their solid waste, that's a solid thing to do. And this is a great example of how we nerd out on all sorts of the weirdest little details. Chris, you clearly love your work. Thank you for being here. All right.
34 years.
Yeah.
And this board is proud of nerding out.
That's right. No better place on the coast to nerd out about public governance matters. All right, so any further testimony? Let me close the public hearing. And can I have a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
That was you, Eric?
Second.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Slater-Carter,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Aye.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Marshall.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the minutes for December 6th, financial statements for November 2018, the warrants for January 1st, the SAM flow report for November, the monthly review of current investment portfolio, the connection permit applications received, monthly water production report for October, rain report, solar energy report, and the monthly public agency retirement service report for September 2018. Does anyone care to remove anything for discussion? We're not hearing any. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Jim and Catherine. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Old business. No old business. New business. Item 1, review and possible action concerning certification of the results of the November 6th, 2018 statewide general election.
Thanks, Scott. This is another item that we are required to do, adopting a resolution declaring results of district election held on November 6, 2018. It's usually something that we're actually doing already in December. This time around, the Elections Board has exactly 1 month for this process and certifying elections. We got the result on December 13, but it was apparently sent out on December 6, the last day. So we have them, however, now, and are asking for the action to adopt the resolution declaring the results of the district election held on November 6, 2018.
Can I have a motion to adopt the
So
resolution
moved.
next in order? Catherine, to move. Who's second?
I feel like I'm conflicted.
It's quite all right, actually. And no one to block. Okay, so we'll be in the secret square. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution declaring the results of the district election held on November 6, 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. I'm really heartened that 3 of us chose to continue down this path. Thank you. We've done new business 2. Let's move on to new business 3, review and possible action concerning appointments of board officers and committee assignments for 2019.
So we prepared the usual spreadsheet where we list the appointments for 2018 and leave the 2019 appointments open so that the board can choose. And that's, of course, the recommended action to appoint district officers and committee assignments for 2019.
Okay, let me start out by noting I'm sitting in tonight as President Pro Tem and in the absence of our president who has stepped down from public office and chose not to run again. Once again, I want to say thank you to Dwight for a 5-year commitment on that. Very good work. But as President Pro Tem, it might be ordinary for me to seek the presidency. I am not going to seek any officer positions this year. So with that, do we have any nominations for board president?
I'll nominate Catherine.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, I do believe Catherine, by acclamation,
you.
will serve as board president. Let's go to President Pro Tem.
Quickly define what President Pro Tem is. Is that like VP?
Vice President.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys use different terms up here.
I'll volunteer for that. I don't know when.
I'll nominate you.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a nomination for Jim. The way we do it is we'll take whatever nominations come up and then we'll go through it.
I'm going to second that as well.
Okay. If we don't have any others, then Jim, congratulations, President Pro Tem. It's a great office. I'm enjoying it at the moment, but you can step right into this shortly. Do we have a nomination for secretary?
I would nominate Rick.
Sure.
Now, it is customary, and I'm just going to assert here, if we don't hear objection, Secretary Pro Tem would be everyone else.
Yes.
And I would suggest that we do it in...
Everyone else besides the president, right?
That's correct. The president cannot serve as Secretary Pro Tem, but everyone else in what order? Alphabetical by first name?
Sounds good.
And these are people who sign documents and checks.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. And the reason we do everybody is so that there's always someone, very likely always someone available.
We discovered it was much more effective to have everybody as the alternate.
You'll see something like this a little later in the list. For treasurer, I think we're all looking at Eric.
I'd like to nominate Eric.
Sounds good.
Do we hear
I'll
any?
second it.
I'll second, yeah.
That's a second and a third, so that's acclamation. Congratulations, Eric. Thank you for stepping up to that.
Yeah.
This is a bit of work, but we really appreciate that.
Yeah, not a problem.
For agency representatives, let's start with SAM representatives. I would like to nominate Rick to sit in the seat that I have been sitting in for a while.
Why would you like to leave? I just hope that you and Catherine would continue on there.
I have a lot going on, and I need to focus my energies right now, and I wouldn't mind giving somebody else a turn at this wheel. And Rick, you've got experience and clarity of purpose, and you have your bit in your teeth about recycled water every bit as much as I ever did, and I think
I'd like to consider that a recycled water team.
absolutely. I don't intend to stop trying to help you with this, but if you're up for it, that's my nomination.
Okie doke.
How long were you on the SAM board?
I did not keep count.
That's all right.
That would be depressing.
It's got to be more than 15 years.
I'm going to second that.
Two runs, it adds up to something, probably bigger than 2. And I heard it.
There was.
I would like
assuming
to.
Catherine was
I
still
would
there.
like to stay on SAM.
That sounds good. Okay, for alternate, I'm happy to serve as an alternate.
I think that probably works out best.
And then I would suggest Jim as well for an alternate. When and where possible, understanding the discussion we had with the council at the last meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay. CSDA.
I have been that for so many years, I've lost count, and I would like Rick to take that over. So I nominate Rick.
I think it's okay. I mean, they meet like every 3 months.
They meet every
One meeting.
3 months. We did, and I asked Clemens to distribute it, get a letter from a GCSD board member, I am tired, whose name escapes me right now, who is trying to get more people to attend the GCSD, or the CSDA
CSD meeting.
meeting, so he must be the GCSD representative.
I know he was the I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't seen the current elections.
Right, so I forwarded it to Clemens and asked him to distribute it to all the board members here.
Okay, so moving on through, Aqua member.
I'd like to nominate Rick for that, as long as he's retired, we may as well put him to work.
And I do want to point out that this involves the Aqua JPIA as well for us. So there's a representation on the Association of California Water Agency as well as the Joint Powers Insurance Agency.
Okay, who's Rick?
Yes.
Gonna thumb wrestle for it?
Is that okay, Rick?
Yes, that is okay.
Okay, budget and finance. Bill Huber's no longer available to serve. Catherine,
I would like to be on it. Eric is a treasurer, so he is automatically there.
see what you agree to. It's just like it layers up.
It just layers right in there.
Plenty to do. Personnel.
Scott, do you want to be on it? I'll be on it with you, or Rick.
I'd just as soon other folks jump in on that one.
Okay, Eric and Rick, or Eric and Jim?
Eric and Jim.
Okay.
All right, that works. Sure.
I'm happy to have, it's exciting to have people who want to step up and do this. This is great. Ad hoc committees. Ad hoc committees, well, the budget and finance and personnel are standing committees. This requires that they have a regular schedule, that they be publicly noticed and treated under the Brown Act as a public meeting. Ad hoc committees meet as needed. It is not a requirement that these have any kind of regular schedule, nor that they be noticed, nor that they be open to the public. They can be at the discretion of the board or the committee itself. Recycling solid waste.
Can I ask a question? Didn't we always have a water committee?
Well, that was,
Scott, you and Scott were on the water committee.
we were, and
What happened to that
it
committee?
kind of disappeared when we became a water district and found that
But-
rather than having a special committee
That was
to,
that's what we were calling the planning committee.
yeah.
Planning committee.
Yeah,
I think so, yep. That was merged at one point.
Yeah, we put,
All right.
we put a variety of things.
Okay, so that's not the planning committee.
Right,
Got it.
And it's overall for the whole district.
Okay.
right. Okay, recycling solid waste. Bill's no longer able to serve. That was Catherine and Bill.
And I want to stay on that.
Anybody else want that? No one wants it, I'll take it.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, is it a requirement that it be a board member? Because I'm seeing people in the back here. The web committee, I'm going to suggest that we, it's one of my final acts, I'm going to suggest that we dispense with the web committee. It seems to be pretty well in hand, being led by staff and a consultant.
Sure.
Sounds good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Outreach/newsletter, that was Catherine and Bill.
I'd like to stay on that. I'd like to have at least one newsletter a year. The last one we put out was so good. The one about with the
Rick is always
history.
big on messaging. I'd like to suggest that you
I'd sort of recommend Jim or Eric first if they wanted to jump in.
I don't mind doing it, but Rick, you're such a communicating kind of guy.
With all the friends I made yesterday. So,
We don't know what you mean.
we don't know what you mean.
That was actually today, just for the...
Well,
that
no,
yesterday.
it was yesterday
it
for
was-
the print
It
version.
was today that I read it.
Are you glad to have community help?
We certainly, and that we have had over the years at times. In
I would
fact,
help Catherine and Jim with that.
Okay, that would be good.
Wait, you're talking about the
Newsletter.
So is Rick gonna do that? Or
No, he didn't.
No, he's not. Okay,
He
so Catherine, right?
declined.
Okay, Catherine.
Rick, if you have a message, you know
Yes,
you know who to bug with your messaging.
Okay.
Legislative, that was myself and Catherine.
I want to stay on that. I will follow Chris's directive and work on it.
I have not done a whole lot with that with you.
We have not. There hasn't
Not
been.
lately.
There hasn't been a real need. Mostly
We did.
legislative stuff. I've been working through CSDA.
I'm going to suggest Catherine working the staff is probably sufficient. You
That
can always
sounds
pull
fine.
somebody in if you
I like that.
want the help. CCWD committee, I'm going to suggest, given CCWD's
Disappearance.
abject lack of interest, that we disband this ad hoc committee.
I agree.
We should make an ad hoc. The Latin for
I
it.
think,
The Latin for
on
it.
behalf of the group,
Ad hoc means not existing, or does it make a hoc
it
committee?
might be a,
Yeah,
might be
you
an
know.
Is it a double negative?
Between
ad hoc might be the way to go.
It's a double negative.
I do think we as a group would do well to express our interest and willingness to work with CCWD at any time on any subject matter, and I think as recycled water looks like it has a chance to pick up again, clearly we should anticipate that, but right now we don't have any need to meet with them, but we certainly leave it open and look forward to the opportunity to do that. Recycled Water Committee, this one is...
It's not a committee, this is a single seat at the Recycled Water Committee that
Oh.
Montara has.
Oh,
Yes.
the for sand. Was that for sand?
There's
That was-
That was for sand.
The
That was-
stakeholder committee.
Right.
I'm going to
stakeholder-
recommend that, given where things are with SAM right now, that we do away with this one and
I agree.
reconstitute it should the need arise.
I like
We
that.
certainly have people here ready, willing, and able to work on recycled water, and 2 of them are on SAM as regular members. That seat was intended for Montara to have a seat at the table as a water agency
That's right.
in the recycled water roundtable. That
Correct.
had CCWD there as well.
Right, so the manager is fortunately as well present.
Yeah,
So-
if that picks up again, it will make sense to appoint someone to sit in that role. The wireless lease, I think we have this well in hand now.
With a
with staff
consultant,
and a
yeah.
consultant, so
Yes.
let's do away with this one. The planning committee,
I would like to, the ex-water committee, planning committee, I'd like to be on that committee.
Okay, and I want to stay on that.
Okay, you don't mind, Scott?
no, I think that's great.
Okay.
Big wave, do we have anything?
There's
That's-
action coming very soon.
Okay.
Not sure if it requires committee, but
If it does, you'll have some people to call on. We have Catherine and...
I'd like to be on that committee.
Catherine and Jim. Rate study. Do we have any rate studies coming up? If not, we don't need a committee right now.
I think we could just refer that to the finance committee.
I think, I mean,
And then bring it to the
we're
board
gonna
if it's
definitely
big.
need it in 2020.
Right.
Oh, this is 2019. Let me just mention for the public that the board president can at any point appoint members to an ad hoc committee. You can do that. The president can do that, any given day. We try to do all this at once at the board level. 1 for visibility, 2 also just to make sure that everybody's actually willing to sign up for the commitment.
Before they come to their senses.
Well, as I look down this and I see which initials are most prominent, not everybody wants to take on that much.
Right.
The connection fee committee,
Again, I think that should go to the finance committee.
Okay, let's do that, and then strategic plan progress.
I would like to have an update on our strategic plan with a whole community-wide meeting again.
So that's Catherine and
Eric.
Eric. Very good, very good. So we have a whole bunch of people. I'll share my notes with the recording secretary, and we can make sure we've got everything in agreement. And we'll send this out, distribute this to everybody.
Yes, and it will also be on the website.
Okay, very good. All right, with that, let's move on to item 4. And by the way, thank you all for being willing to step up. That's great.
And to the community. Have any ideas, any thoughts? Our phone numbers are available, our emails are available. Don't hesitate to contact us. You also find us at the post office on occasion.
And I've been waylaid at the coffee shop.
Safeway, New Leaf.
Both Safeways.
Yep.
And even in my front yard.
That's one of the differences between
Right there.
MWSD and GCSD is you
Different
get
Safeways.
waylaid at both Safeways, not just one.
That's right.
No, I only go north, so
All right.
I can't get waylaid at the other one.
Item 4,
Not anymore.
review and response to resident questions about fire flow.
All right, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so Greg Diegues approached us at the November meeting, I think it was, and had some, at the time, very good, very timely question back then, because that was the time of the large fires in California, and had some questions about fire flow in the district. The board recommended that we handle this through a specific agenda item. It was originally planned for December, but we moved it with Greg's agreement to today. There was also some clarifications that happened through email that I actually put in the staff report. But with that, we actually turned this over to the district water engineer and asked Tanya to prepare some responses and bring those to this board meeting. Before I hand it to Tanya, I want to mention that we were hoping that this would be actually a larger discussion for this community. We invited CAL FIRE to attend this meeting and provide additional comments, but unfortunately we haven't heard. We definitely got some positive responses from the battalion chief, but didn't hear from CAL FIRE officially. So, but I think we can answer those questions that Greg had.
Let me just mention, we do have speaker form from Greg. What I'd like to do is go to staff first, and then once we've got all that, Greg is going to be like, wow, impressed, and it may not have,
You have to type.
and I suppose it's possible in some universe I'm not familiar with, that Greg would not have further comment or question. But we might have fallen into that dimension, I don't know. Okay.
So I'd like to hand it to Tanya so that she can present the questions and answer them.
Thank you, Clemens. Mr. President, members of the board, there were a few really detailed questions, and I just am going to go over them with the responses. First question was, with the projected connection growth, how is pressure maintained throughout the system to fight fires? This is a very good question, but also it reflects the fact that how complex the water system is, and how it's viewed in its dynamic. The distribution system, that is the pipes and other appurtenances that deliver water to you, the customers. The pressure in that system is maintained by the tanks. So the levels in the tanks dictate the pressure in the system. That's how the district will fight fires. These are elevations that are fixed and not dependent much on water consumption. The reason being, the storage in the tanks consists of several components. I just want to expand on my answer in writing. The components are emergency storage, which this district chose a very conservative number of 2 days. of maximum day demand, which means this is for a severe emergency like an earthquake, that these tanks will maintain 2 days of supply for customers.
Scott, I'd like to interject. Tanya, when you say conservative, you mean
High.
we are going for the higher values, not the lower,
That's right.
less expensive values.
That's right.
We pay
Thank
quite
you.
a bit for this.
Yes, thank you. Conservative as on the high end of conservative higher storage. The second component of the storage is fire storage, which is calculated, and I will talk about it later again, at a very conservatively high design fire. And only the third component is the operational storage, which does fluctuate over the course of the day and then gets replenished at night. So that's how pressure is maintained in the system to fight fires or provide you daily service. The second question, is a 2-hour design fire a reasonable depiction of the risks we face? What other scenarios would be prudent to plan for? The fire, actually, the design fire for water systems is dictated by the fire code. And maybe you will be surprised to find out that the fire code over the years has actually reduced those design fires. This board has elected to use a very high conservative design fire, which is 2,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours, which results in 240,000 gallons of storage for fire alone, and that storage is always there. It's not being touched during the daily demands or any other issues. For comparison, the fire code would allow us to use 750 gallons per minute. So the fire code allows 750, we're using 2,000. And the fire code allows us to use 750 for an hour and a half. We're using 2,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours. So the board has consistently supported that criteria. It's been established when the water system was purchased, and it's being reestablished every time this board adopts a master plan, every 5 years. The next question was, why isn't the fire reserve reserved and deducted from plant capacity in projections of how many connections MWSD could support? Once again, the fire reserve is not a capacity number, it's a storage number. The storage dedicated solely for firefighting, and it's always in your tanks. The district doesn't drain the tanks. The district operates them. The tanks do go down slightly in volume during the consumption, regular consumption, but the fire storage is always there intact, available, plus the emergency storage. How does the real peak fire reserve compare to mid-year and end-of-year storage at each tank? How would the water be directed to likely fire areas? I must admit I kind of struggled with this question because we don't have real peak fire reserves. This question really relates to an agency that has lakes and storage reservoirs, for example, like at Chechi or Crystal Springs or Denison Reservoir. This district does not operate open air storage. The district has Montara Creek and several groundwater wells for storage. For supply. That supply is available on a moment's notice and is utilized based on its basically sequence order, how the district their preferred sources, better sources water quality wise, and then followed by the sources that need to be treated. The tanks are replenished daily, not seasonally, except for the fire storage that is, as I said, never used except there's a fire. The distribution system, so the second part of the question was, how would the water be directed to the likely fire areas? Once again, I must apologize, I don't understand what likely fire areas are. But if there's a fire, the distribution system designed to deliver water from fire source to any point in the system. The fire flow is delivered to the hydrants. The hydrants are always in the distribution system ready to go for the fire department to connect and pump. The ability of the distribution system to deliver adequate flow and pressure is tested through hydraulic modeling and hydrant tests. The fire district actually runs fire flow tests. They run so much that I think we're considering asking them to pay for the water they waste. It's a lot of water.
Well, it's actually the residents that request that are required to or requested to do the fire flow tests that are being
For a new house.
Yes.
Very important, the district has an annual capital improvements program that includes the distribution system improvements, and we implement projects every year to improve the ability to deliver fire flows, meaning increasing, replacing pipes, old pipes that are small diameter with regular diameter pipes, and stuff like that. That improves the fire flow everywhere. The fifth question was, would a fire in Rancho Corral de Tierra affect our access to and use of water pumped and store there or other locations? How is any fire-related outage factored into our available capacity or reliable water supply? Rancho Corral de Tierra is not a district customer, so the fire at their property should not affect the district at all, unless it spreads into the district's area. We don't have a criteria for fire-related outages because we don't really anticipating. This is not something. Fire-related outages for the water system are not customary utilized. There's no such thing in our industry.
Pipes aren't vulnerable, really. They're underground. So fire-related outage isn't really to expect.
Our pumps and all the connecting controls, if they were attacked by a fire, would that hurt us?
No.
So the
No
question
pump
is-
is involved in it's the
all
tanks.
gravity, right?
It's all
It's
just
just all
gravity.
gravity. The tank is
Okay.
on top of the hill. The pipe is in the
Fire
ground.
flow is provided by gravity.
Probably the worst thing that would hurt us, and it's something that has happened, was when a contractor was using his backhoe and he hit one of our water lines, and we got it, no, that was under American Water, and it got shut off very quickly. And past history, that was before we took it over, and you were right, it did take a while to refill the tank, but we have made such significant progress since then that wouldn't have, that problem would be remedied much more quickly.
And then the latter part of this question deals with the reliable water supply. The way the district estimates its reliable water supply is with the largest source out of service. So we're assuming that for reliability, the district must operate with one largest source out of service always, and that's the criteria that's used by the state to check our reliability of our system. And that's how all the plans, everything is planned around that number. That is with one source out of service. So that's the conservative reliability number. What actions are being taken to remedy the 2017 master plan note that 39% of the nodes in the distribution system are unable to provide adequate fire flow? I think I mentioned this before, the district plans projects. This is what the master plan does. It shows vulnerability or deficiencies, and we then plan projects and improvements every year. Those are outlined in the Water System Capital Improvement Program, which is a 10-year projection, but it's adopted every year by this board in the spring, before the district adopts the annual budget or together with it. And
The fire flow delivery capabilities, these numbers are shared in the various locations, shared with the fire department, correct? So they have access to all of this?
Yes,
yes, they have access to
Yeah.
anything they,
they have access to all the fire flow information.
Have they raised any concerns with this? Any areas that they're especially concerned with?
No. This is closely looked at during the, what is that process, the
ISO.
insurance, what is it called?
ISO?
ISO. The ISO assessment is really looking at this fairly closely on where are flows in the system, and this is done on a coast side wide basis, and that gets then calculated to some sort of a factor that determines really your house fire insurance. What I want to add to this point is that we're unable to provide adequate fire flow according to district standard set fire flow, not the 750 gallons per minute. So this is our own fire, this is our own requirement, where we say we have to bring it up a little more. But in that context, I want to remind everybody, at least everybody in this room, is at an age where I can say 15 years is not that long ago, and 15 years ago we took over the water system, and I just want to remind everyone that a fire 15 years ago would have had a devastating impact on this community. Today I can say that the fire flows almost everywhere were improved. We had at the beginning of the takeover of the water system a specific project, a very large project that looked at every hydrant in the system. A lot of hydrants were changed out. A lot of pipe diameters were increased during that project, but also throughout the past 15 years. Fire flow is something that we consider with every project, literally with every repair we consider fire flows, and look to increase flows and reduce potential restrictions, etc., etc. So I can say this is something that we can be proud of, having achieved significant improvements in our water system and its fire flow.
Well, I mentioned too, right off the bat, we went right after some pressure regulating valves.
Yes.
Which would be key functional components that would have a big impact on the ability to deliver into a given zone. And that was one of the very first things we did. I also want to mention that Catherine and I and staff went up and
Gary Warhoff
went up and spent time with the Coastal Commission to talk about how can we, from day one of taking over the water system 15 years ago, how can we accelerate the necessary improvements for fire flow?
Right.
That was the very first thing that we did.
That fire flow was one of the driving mandates for taking over the water system. We had been working with the California Public Utilities Commission to the previous private water district had been charging us rates to make improvements that had not been happening. And we actually had the Point Montara Fire Protection District and later Coastside Fire Protection District, or no, Point Montara only, but coming up to testify with us to PUC staff and to the CPUC. It has been a very strong focus of this community and this district. I do want to say that the questions about Rancho Corral de Tierra and the areas outside the urban-rural boundary, we are limited by the county local coastal program and by our own strategic not strategic plan, I'm sorry, the
Public Works.
Public Works, to have our hydrant locations within the urban-rural boundary and not outside.
Oh.
It is important for a number of reasons, and as such, CAL FIRE is very aware of this. And so a couple of years ago, when there was a fire on outside the urban-rural boundary, we had helicopters and tanker airplanes putting it out, and it was out within an hour or so. It was
Yeah.
pretty exciting for all of us.
Yeah, I've seen CDF do CAL FIRE. They have responsibility for the ability to deliver fire suppression in the rural areas. And I've seen them operate. I watched probably 2 different times up at the foot of Montara Mountain, and once a little bit up on the mountain, as well as down in El Granada, down in the eastern side of Miramar, up against the eucalyptus and up into that. It's pretty amazing watching the choppers come and bring the big bags and dip them in the water, in whatever water they choose to use, like stock ponds, or if they need to, into the ocean. And then go into it. It's I can hear Flight of the Valkyrie as they flew overhead.
We know the record.
I will also add that a lot of the problems with the more recent fires in the foothills and other coastal hills have to do with the bad roads. And counties are allowing development in areas where there's a lot of trees, a lot of dry brush. CAL FIRE is very good for those who live even in the outside the urban-rural boundary, of coming out and checking properties every year to make sure you have a fire-safe area around your house, and of helping to putting notices to control the brush. But that's something that every property owner should be aware of on their own. But the roads, for instance, in Paradise, there were a lot of single-lane roads that when a tree went across them, there was no alternative way out. And that's, for most places in the Montara Moss Beach area, there's more than one way out. And I think that's very important when it comes to considering catastrophic fires, is making sure that you can get out from your neighborhood.
So, Tanya, did you have anything else?
I need to add.
Comments?
So what we have to add here is the replacement of one existing tank and the addition of 2 further tanks.
In the last 15 years.
Actually, that is pretty much done in the last 5 years.
Yes.
So adding an additional 600,000 gallons of storage. And that is pretty much all utilized for fire flow, potential fire flow. And you mentioned pressure reducing stations, and I would like to let the board know that these are actually fairly challenging. The number of PRV stations that we have does not compare to any other agency on the coast side. We're actually really better compared to San Francisco, city of San Francisco system when it comes.
You're
to
saying we have a whole lot of them and we pay attention to them.
We have a very high number of
and we pay for it in our
pressure reducing stations. If anyone wants a good business, then please understand pressure reducing valves and learn how to service those, because there's not many people around that can do this. We worked with a number of consultants throughout the years. By now, we have trained all of our staff in not only operating, but also maintaining, taking apart, replacing, maintaining the PRV stations, and particularly replacing the pilotry tube that originally was made out of copper, now with all stainless steel, which has resulted in much less incidents involving PRV stations. Before, there was a lot of these pilotry copper tubings burned through, so there's always a lot of water going through at high velocity, and they're burning through every 6 months or so. And so this was all done in-house through our staff, bringing this up making suggestions, getting involved, going to the training. So this is one of these items that the board simply doesn't see on a day-to-day operation, but they've been very active in maintaining our PV stations and making sure that fire flows are guaranteed.
So some water agencies make money by bottling the water and branding it and selling it. We could do Montara water branded PRVs.
No, ours is in Farrell
Figure
on Bud.
there's enough money for us to go manufacturing these and selling them under the Montara brand.
So Clemens, the staff is able to maintain and certify?
Service them.
So service?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they have to be checked on a regular basis. A lot of them are also underground. Some are above ground and are visible, but the majority is underground. There's water entering, so there's a lot that needs to be taken care of when it comes to these stations.
Okay, and how many are there in the district approximately?
Well, we have, I can just say it's 20 plus. Okay, so we have 13 big pressure zones, I believe, but we have one pressure zone that consists of 5 individual pressure zones, so we have around 17 pressure zones, and into every pressure zone you have 1 to 4 station going, so is it 20, 30?
Okay. All right.
Now.
Thank you.
Greg,
Hi.
your turn.
Okay. So, Greg Yeagas, Montara, thank you, Clemens and staff, for a thorough and timely attention to those questions. I can't find the Montara Water and Sewer District Capital Improvement Plan. I'm very familiar with the SAM Capital Improvement Plan we went over last fall, and $40 million, which is really $50 million over 20 years. But the only thing I found so far was a 7-row list on page 26 of the June 17 master plan. That's all I saw for the capital improvement plan for the water district. So I don't really see yet how that relates to my concern, for instance, about low hydrant pressures, but I do appreciate Clemens' explanation that maybe they're not really that low if it's compared to our standards as opposed to, some lower statewide standard. I also understand that Rancho Corral de Tierra is considered to have its own firefighting water and responsibility. But as I said to the Midcoast Community Council in September and November, unlike Las Vegas, when it comes to wildfire, what happens in Montara or El Granada is not going to stay in Montara or El Granada, okay? So this isn't just a Montara issue, as responsibly as we may be handling it. There's the, Roman candle of the eucalyptus forests in El Granada, etc., which could impact us all. So I wondered about stuff, and Rick, you mentioned it. Above ground electronics and controls could be affected by a wildfire. It's good to hear that it's gravity feed and that the lines are below ground. There may be an issue with replenishment rate. I read parts of a study that Clemens, you work with a professor who presented, and it showed that in drought years there was a boundary on the degree to which they could pump out of a granite fissure well. So there may be some replenishment issues, even if there's not an immediate storage issue, okay, in a drought year. So, I'll leave that aside. The bottom line is I'm not a water professional, and I'm not a fire professional. I may be a professional worrywart. That's to be discussed. But I would feel better if I knew that we had a recent fire preparedness audit, not just in Montara, in the Mid-Coast. And that would give us a clean bill of health or a series of action steps we could all take as a joint community. That would be great. Now, I recognize that this board and staff have a lot on their plate. And given that this has received attention and is deemed to be under control, maybe it's not something you want to deal with right away. I'll leave it to the board to determine whether such a fire preparedness audit is of interest. I will again speak to the MCC about it. So I leave it up to you, and thank you for your time and attention. Maybe we'll get the fire department to answer one of our emails one of these days. I haven't been successful.
Well,
Thanks.
They have a meeting once a month. You can go down, and they have public comment twice.
Let me ask ask about the CIP. It's contained in the 2017 Water System Master Plan update. Is that the best place to find it?
No, CIP is in the budget. It's included in the budget, so you just go there and you'll find water CIP.
If you
And it rotates?
if you haven't looked at the Water System Master Plan update, that's an excellent document, very rich in information. I think it would be surprising to a lot of people to realize just how much work goes into the planning for this water system. But it's on the website. It's actually, a lot of it's quite readable, and some of it takes a little expertise, but we have people who do that. Well, thank you. Thank you for the timely questions, Rick.
Yeah. On the tour, we talked about the Portola Estates area being kind of separate. Do they have similar kind of flow rate potentials of the so many gallons per minute coming out of that sort of separate section? Or is it less because there's less stuff out there?
Well, I mean, the fire flows are similar that the hydrants provide.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually the pressure, and I understand we should have a discussion about pressure versus flow on the side. The pressure in that zone is actually, for most hydrants, really good. The accessible volume is a little bit different in the Portola zone, and that is the only zone where potentially to increase the volume there is a pump needed. So there's a pump involved.
Not that I live up there or anything. So.
Yes.
Well, I will tell Greg that before we took over the water district, the fire hydrant closest to me had 0 pressure. It was dry. I think there was dust and grit accumulating in the pipeline because there are no urban connections off of it after a certain point, and it was simply a dead end. And that's one of the problems, one of the things that has to be paid attention to is dead-end hydrants are a water quality problem for the district, and it's better to have water flowing through so that we've got fresh water everywhere. But
Want to get on through the...
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Well, we can nerd out about things.
Well, and I want to thank Greg for bringing this up. I think it's important for the community to get a review every once in a while about these kind of critical issues.
All right, item 5, review possible action concerning adoption of connection charge report.
Okay, so this is an item that we're required to do on an annual basis. There is a Senate Bill 1716 that requires that we're looking at our development fees and charges. What we're doing really here is we're showing the amount of connection fees collected, and we're showing that all of these connection fees were spent on capital projects. So there's really no, the connection fee fund is essentially filled and then the money is taken out immediately and everything is spent on capital projects. That's why the remaining balance in these funds is really always 0. So last year, 2018, and those are fiscal year 2018 actually, we actually received a fairly high amount, so it's $284,556 in connection fees, and we spent, of course, a much larger number on CIP projects. It exceeds that. That's on the, that's on the water side. On the sewer side, we collected 229. So on the water side, for example, we had a project that cost $1.3 million right over here already. On the sewer side, it was $229,000. On the water side, $229,000 that were collected, and much more was spent on capital projects.
Well, hearing no objection.
Well, I have a question. It was a thing that came up today but it was my recollection that if we were starting a fund from the new connection fees in case we ever needed to buy additional capacity at SAM. And it's a question that has come up routinely. And I see that we're spending 100% of our sewer connection on capital improvements. I'd love to have a discussion. Is our plan that the first connection over our allotted SAM capacity is going to pay that new connection fee?
No.
Is going to buy that capacity?
No. So the district does not have a fund that sets aside money to purchase the connection. During my tenure, we looked at the available capacity at SAM twice, and it was both time determined that we're so far away from reaching that capacity limit that this district will never be in the position of having to purchase new capacity.
Well, I would very much like perhaps the managers to discuss this. I found out today, was reminded today, that another companion sewer district is essentially carrying the interest on that and that fund as bad debt on their books. And I'm very concerned about this.
So an opportunity to clarify.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
just really want to get on through this. I think that's,
I think it's a discussion managers should have.
So we
And maybe
carry it on our
accountants.
books as well.
but we don't carry it as a debt. We carry it as a tracking number for the cost of future
Correct.
acquisition. Perhaps if there was a discussion, perhaps they might be persuaded to clarify the language and the way they carry it on the books. I know it'll be a fun
That's right.
conversation for them with their auditor the same way that we had.
Right.
Not an easy discussion, but it's good to be really clear about that. With that, hearing no objection, we authorize the filing of the annual connection report with the district clerk.
Yes.
Item 6, review of Half Moon Bay Terrace Groundwater Basin SGMA prioritization.
Okay, so this is actually a fun item this time around. We've been bringing this
This is the good.
this Sigma prioritization to the board twice in 2018 because we were shocked by the Department of Water Resources release of the draft updated groundwater basin priorities that flipped the Half Moon Bay Terrace. So there's DWR Bulletin 118 that defines what in California is a groundwater basin, and all this that was so far categorized as a very low priority, meaning the assessment through the state showed that there was no concern for the coast side aquifer, and the understanding there's not one coast side aquifer, it's a multitude of interconnected or not aquifers. But so far this was seen as in very good health, meaning no considerable contamination issues and no overdraft, saltwater intrusion, major issues, really none of those. And all of a sudden the prioritization was it was reclassified as very high priority with specific concern that would have triggered, or that triggered at the time, that by 2020 we would have to have a groundwater management agency in place, most likely a joint powers agency with all the stakeholders, county, city, Coastside County Water District, Montara, RCD, whoever are the stakeholders. And the list of agencies that I just mentioned got together and fought this really hard. We were told that others have tried to fight this and reconsider the reclassifications, and East Bay Mud didn't achieve what we're trying to get to. And we learned now in beginning of January that we were actually successful in changing the state's mind, and the reclassification resulted now in very low priority again. Reason for this was bad data from the state, not anything that they've before considered in any reclassification. If the state provides bad data, so it is, and things are just based on bad data then. In this case, it was different, and it was actually, again, it was a very good cooperation between the stakeholders that all got together and submitted comment letters. The reason here for the reclassification was the water production numbers, and it had to do actually with the Alta Vista well being located accidentally somewhere close to Half Moon Bay instead of back in Montara. And so SRT helped us prepare a comment letter that corrected this and many other issues. And we believe that this comment letter had a great impact on the state's decision.
Great. This letter makes a very good summary. It's good reading, and I think it's a very succinct way of really kind of pulling together a lot of information in just very few pages. It's very well done.
And it's useful for fire flood.
I see a comment from a guy who's not near the microphone, but he could be. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
What was your name again? Good to see you again, Bob.
I just have a question before I say something. This would have impacted the entire us and CCWD, correct?
Yes. Us, Coastside, San Mateo County, the city of Half Moon Bay, and San Mateo County.
Okay, and there was an explanation this was going to, cost money. That was, I think, I'm not sure, it was just the cost of money for us, not the others, correct?
No.
So that 15,000 or whatever I think it was would have been spread amongst all the districts that would
Well,
have
I mean,
been.
the establishment of a JPA is going to cost around $1.5 million.
Okay, all right. So my question is that this is an expense that we saved, obviously, thank God, but so did a lot of others.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, have we gotten flowers from them? And if not, the expense of us doing the work, we spend hours, we spend finances. I think the other districts should get a letter requesting some sort of
Contribution.
Well,
I mean, I can make jokes about it, but I'm serious. I mean, we spent money, we saved them money.
yeah.
Other than gee, thanks a lot. I'd like this, if nothing else, I would like it documented in those districts, so 4 years from now, when we need something from them, and they say, we don't care about you, we would like to have some evidence that we can remind them.
Did you get copies of the letter?
Yes, they all got copies of the letter, but I want to maybe build a little bit on what I said before. This was a joint effort between all, and I need to highlight the cooperation with all the agencies a bit more. Every agency submitted a comment letter. Every agency that I listed here as a stakeholder submitted a comment letter,
all right.
spent resources, and they all did an awesome job. RCD was more focused on, I think it was their
South
population numbers. Coastside County Water
Okay,
District.
then let me just apologize.
Took their niche.
We don't need their flowers, and thank you.
No, we all congratulated each other for the success, and that's the right
Figured
step.
out they had the wrong GPS coordinates for the Alta Vista well.
We did.
That would be
That's what flowers.
But I want
This
to,
district did.
I want to thank staff and SRT for taking a lead and doing their usual superlative job. This district has worked with SRT and our staff for 18, not SRT, but with the predecessor for SRT for 18 years. And frankly, SRT has done a fabulous job at a reasonable cost, and once again, they have proven their worth.
And I would like to echo what Catherine just said, staff, SRT for having done this. This was a threat, and you guys both of you staff and Clemens and Tanya came through. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, sir.
Well said. If there's an opportunity to get everybody together and cooperate one more time over a good collective lunch, maybe here at the district, this might be a real opportunity for everybody to celebrate something together for once.
We have a picnic table outside.
But I don't know. I mean, might be some work, but I think this would be something to celebrate with an invitation to lunch for a bunch of people, and I would be very supportive of helping underwrite that. Let's move on to. With our thanks, let's move on to item 7, review and possible action concerning nomination of representative for
I nominate Rick Lohman.
I'll second the nomination.
I thought we did this earlier, too.
This is the
official nomination.
Oh,
So setting you up as our representative is one thing, but nominating you is an
Okay.
action that we have to take by
Making
resolution.
it official, right?
Let's have a roll call vote.
So,
I'm trying to get us out of here in 2
your
minutes.
chance. Oh, sure, now. Sure.
I think Scott's heading for a record.
So,
So,
Rick, I just want to point out, you should thank Paul Protasic for, preparing the way for this,
Yes,
and maybe
his history
even
there.
chat with Bob about what this actually entails and involves.
Yes.
Because he's been a very long time with that on the
Yeah.
Aqua Board.
it takes a long time to build those
Oh.
relationships. Do I have a motion?
I made a motion.
You made a motion. Did I get a second?
Yes.
Jim, thank you. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
why not?
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Marshall.
Aye.
It is the understanding of President Pro Tem that we have 5 affirmative votes. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to reports, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side.
I wasn't there, it was you and Rick.
Hey Rick, how'd you like to try your hand at,
I'd actually want to go back and look at the agenda again. I did that because I was,
normally by now I have pulled this up. Let's come back to that. Let's go to Mid-Coast Community Council meeting,
Nothing to report.
CSDA report.
Rick went to that.
Do you have?
that's coming up February, so there's no meeting.
Oh, okay.
February is the first meeting.
No attorney tonight for the attorney's reports. Director's reports, I'm seeing nobody has anything to say anymore. Fine. General manager's report.
Nothing.
Okay, Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side. Agenda is loading at lightning speed using the advantages of the miraculous internet. We actually have a very good connection. Unfortunately, it pulled in the entire agenda, so it's right at 75%. I will say that Monday night's meeting, the tone and tenor of the meeting was collaborative, and just very happy to report it was a good meeting.
I remember the 2 bid things they did for the contract. And
So we approved the contract to extend legal services. That was, it had the potential to be difficult, but it went fine.
To extend legal services is the same.
Yeah.
for another 6 months.
6 months.
We authorized the general manager to execute a contract with Calcon Systems for routine electrical maintenance and SCADA support services at the SAM facilities. And SCADA is the System Control and Data Acquisition System. We always like to try to spell out the acronyms.
Can I do a quick add on A there,
Yeah.
which was the legal things? Beverly, the GM, sent out RFPs to 4 legal firms that she could find that were within a 50-mile radius and could get people here without, flying airplanes. She got 0 responses, which I think could be a potential issue for Sam talking to the future if,
Yeah, I'm grateful that Bold, Polsner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson were willing to extend the contract.
to,
It's been a rough patch for the past year or so, and I'm grateful that they're here. They've done some very nice work for us on some very difficult issues.
Particularly regulatory issues, they have negotiated significant reductions in fines.
Yes, it's been, honestly, their ability to work with the regional board has been notable. I didn't anticipate that they would be that successful, rather like what our staff here did with the groundwater management situation. Our council at SAM did a very nice job of working with the regional board staff to reach an accord that I think we all found a great deal more palatable than what it looked like initially and what could have been levied against us. We are going to replace 2 pumps at the Portola pump station. I'll note that Half Moon Bay registered protest on this vote, as they have consistently on anything influence or anything having to do with capital equipment on the Intertie Pipeline System, the IPS. But they voiced their concern, but it was, just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. They did vote to approve, so that's what we needed. We set up committees. They are now going to be standing committees for the Board Operations Committee and the Finance Committee, meaning that they will be publicly noticed and regularly scheduled.
And
So
there is,
if you have a burning desire to go to a Board Operations Committee or Finance Committee meeting, these will all be posted. They should be posted on the website, and sometimes there's snacks. There's always lots of talking, so if you like that, that's great.
and there is a representative from each district on each committee.
With that, I just want to close with a comment.
Can I ask a question, Scott?
Yes.
I don't know if you can answer this, but the mediation took place. We'll get the results at the next meeting in closed session.
Yes, we don't have a closed session tonight. It's a very long day. We're asking a lot for Dave. Sorry. Notice that we're all...
Not to mention Clemens, Catherine, and Scott.
Notice we're all still in good spirits. I'll leave it at that. I just want to note that the nerding out tonight included nerding out about public service, solid waste, recycling, markets for recycling, calling the governor, fire preparedness, water systems, pressure zones, groundwater management, and how to save money with lawyers. Montara Water and Sanitary District is a great place to nerd out on more than one topic at every single meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight. Join us again soon, and hearing no objection, we are adjourned.
future agenda items real quick. Just put in the request real quick. Or we could do it offline for the next agenda. It's fine.
You can
Take
tell
it up
me,
with the
you
president.
can tell me and Clemens.
So, thanks for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So what is it you want?
Thanks, President.
I want to know where Bob got his cat first.
Oh, well,
Wow.
Or fiction.
that's not an agenda problem.
No.
Not anymore. I don't want to
Under 2
destroy
hours?
that.
Two things.